All right, I have 5:30. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order and start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and just a quick reminder, our Truth and Taxation presentation will begin at 6:30 p.m. If we are still in the middle of this council meeting, we will pause this council meeting, move on to Truth and Taxation, and come back as soon as that is completed. With that, we move on to number 3, consideration and approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion by Gina and a second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Right, next up is public forum. This is an opportunity for citizens to present items to the council that are not on the agenda. Each presentation is limited to 3 minutes and a maximum of 15 minutes will be set aside. If your item needs follow-up from the city, staff will arrange for that. If you would like to step forward for public forum, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and we will go from there.
Good evening, Frank Lelja, 105 7th Avenue Southeast. Not here because I've noticed with the meeting minutes from the Planning Commission and the Ordinance Committee before that I guess there's on the agenda changing the amount of parking requirements. And we're specifically going to lessen the number of cars that are going to be required. I do appreciate that nationwide there's a lot of concern about how to facilitate housing. Everybody from David Brooks on the PBS NewsHour on down is concerned about zoning, other requirements. But that's a nationwide issue. And what we face here in Pine City may not be the same as Minneapolis. I lived in southern Minneapolis for 10 years. We did not have off-street parking. In the winter, it was not passable on those roads. It was terrible. They were hummocky and all of that. If we lessen the amount of parking required off street, I'm afraid that during the winter we're going to end up with a lot more cars on the street, which is going to make it difficult for us to maintain the streets like we have become used to. And I would be ashamed, I think, if we were to do that because of something that's in the wind nationally, which may not in particular apply to us. I looked it up. There's 5.7 million registered cars in Minnesota. That's one for every person who's alive. So there's not, automobile ownership is not going to go away. We do live in town here, but let's face it, we're rural. 15 by 15 is not exactly a metropolitan area. When I lived in South Minneapolis, didn't need a car. Go to work on the bus on Hennepin, shop at Kenny's, pick up your supper on the way home. Lovely. Doesn't happen here. You need a car. People are going to continue. And if they have a car and we're not requiring people to provide for it that are renting out to these people, what choice do they have? I would encourage you to think about those aspects. I don't think that it's necessarily being said in the spirit of not trying to facilitate more housing. I think we need to be looking at what particular problems we have here rather than a nationwide agenda. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Frank.
have a question for you, Frank. Have you considered attending a planning commission meeting and
I'm a little
speaking
late on these, on the agenda. The only reason I'm here tonight is it's going to be on your agenda next time, then I can't say anything.
Okay.
Which, by the way, you guys should really think about changing. I mean, the idea that you can't speak about something that's coming up on the agenda, because if that's all you're looking at is city council agenda, the only reason I know about this is I happened to look at the ordinance committee and then I happened to look at the planning commission. I wouldn't have known that next time you guys meet, this would be there, and then I have to sit on my hands and, or one to cover my mouth
Mhm.
during the meeting. So
Okay.
anyway,
All right.
but that's, yes, I hadn't thought of it because I noticed it too late. Jen.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is still public forum. If anybody else would like to step forward, please make your way to the podium and state your name and address. I will ask again, if anybody would like to step forward to public forum, please make your way to the podium. And I will ask for a third and final time if anybody would like to make their way forward for public forum. Hearing none, we will move on to sheriff's update. I see we don't have a deputy here tonight.
Don't see him either.
Any questions from council or any discussion from council?
I don't know, he went by my house about half an hour ago, so he must be busy or something.
Sure.
I see him in the neighborhoods more than I have, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, next we'll move on to the item number 6, the consent items.
I did have one quick question. For 6-7, is it normal that we don't include last names, or I guess,
6-7.
They're minors.
okay,
Yeah, they're minors. We can either leave off their first name or last names just because they're minors.
All right, any further discussion over the consent items?
Make a motion to approve consent items as presented.
I got a motion from Gina. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second from Kyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we'll move on to old business. Item number 7.1, final application for payment 2025 mill and overlay.
Greg reached out and couldn't be here last minute, so asked me to speak on his behalf, which is pretty self-explanatory. 7.1 is the final request payment for the mill and overlay project. And this would trigger the 1-year warranty if council approves this last payment.
Right, thank you, Marcy. Any questions, comments, concerns from council?
I guess my only concern was that we have some way of making sure that maybe 2 months prior, we have Public Works look at whatever was done to make sure there isn't some problems or whatever. And then, so that we have
Maybe
time as a council,
in the spring, kind of.
whatever, I mean, after the snow is gone, if it leaves.
Hopefully it leads. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Dave. Would someone like to make a motion to approve AFP, the AFP full?
So moved.
All right, motion from Dave. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second from Gina. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next up, item number 7.2, 2025 LRIP resolution memo and resolution 2025-49.
This is also from SEH, where he presented to council on the local road improvement program grant and permission to proceed with that application for 4th Street Southeast. So he is requesting that in order for them to fulfill this grant application, that council approve the resolution 2025-49 for them to submit timely for this grant application.
Thank you, Marcy.
And when would we hear about that? Did he give an indication?
That I don't know.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Wanted to say it was either springtime or maybe next October.
I will-
That's just what's rattling around up in my brain.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-49.
All right, I've got a motion from Dave. And do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second from Kyle. This is a resolution, so we'll proceed with the roll call vote. Any further comments first? All right, hearing none. Gina, I'll start with you.
Yes.
Dave,
Yes,
Kyle,
Yes.
I will also vote yes. That motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next up, 7.3 IT RFP update.
This is just an update. Council had made a decision to interview all the applicants for the IT RFPs. Going back to the organizational chart that council has approved, it does have the city administrator being responsible for overseeing contracted services. So following that procedure, we will follow up with getting these interviews set. And if council's interested in participating, please let me know.
Thank you.
And that organizational chart was approved May 7th of 2025.
The interviews is gonna be for all the contractors or just the 4 that were outlined by
But
staff?
we can go more than 4, but I mean, there's some that just would never fit our budget, so.
I also, peeling back through here, peeling back the layers of this onion, I think we need to, some of these applicants were from out of state. I think that's going to play a huge role in if your IT company is on the East Coast or on the West Coast, you're never having an on-site person. And I think that's a very important aspect of having the ability to have someone come set up a computer, come fix something. So I just wanted to throw that out there and make that.
And I just want to say, with you being a former community member that was our IT person and then continuing on as you became our mayor, sorry, but I put a lot of clout into what you say about the IT structure. I'm kind of leaning on some of that expertise along with them, so
And I would
I
be,
hope you can attend.
yes, I was gonna say I would be more than happy to attend. All right, moving on. We have nothing in new business, so we move on to our department reports. Any questions from counselors about our department reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to committee updates then. Starting off with Public Works Committee.
We met, and it was a real small agenda. We basically dealt with the truck route ordinance. And we talked about signage and chose a sign. The signs that are in the county roads and the state roads have to be to their specifications, but the county roads, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Maury here? No, that's it. But the ones that we do, then we can put the verbiage on them that we want. And so we picked one out that we thought would go real well. And then I mean, everything is in the works, so it's just a matter of the signs having to be ordered. Probably won't get them up until spring, I'm guessing. And then hopefully an easy, sometime, we're not going to go out there and start writing tickets. This is going to be probably a year of education. But I sit in my easy chair looking out the window and watch semis heading into town all the time on 6th Avenue, and we got to stop that. We just spent a lot of money on 10th Street. We don't need to have it destroyed. So I think it was a good thing to talk about. We did talk about engine braking, which is exhaust brakes. We're going to be doing a little more work on that. The people that come into town, they're Jake. I can call them a Jake brake if you're not familiar with it. But that decompresses the cylinders, but makes a lot of noise. And some of the people around the bottom end of the Cross Lake, it rattles their windows. So they don't need to do this. They just do it because they save on their brakes. Can't blame them, but we don't really need to hear this. So that was, go ahead.
Question about the truck route.
Yeah.
So how does it get in the system as a truck route? Like, so that I'm a new truck driver and I type in, like, I'm going out to the industrial park and I'm looking, I don't know how to get through Pine City. How does that get updated to truck route? Like, is that the city responsibility or?
No, but truck routes, the trucks are going to be able to go on any state or county road. We can't dictate that, but that covers a great portion of our town. What we're trying to achieve is the signage will be on streets like 2nd Avenue down the block past the liquor store. There's no reason for it to go that way. They head to 10th Street, but a lot of them do that because it's a shortcut. One of the other problems that the truckers have, and I trucked for many years, so I would guess I'd have the same problem, is the corner up by I call it bank corner up there. That is a challenge sometimes for some of these longer semi tractors to cut that corner. But they don't always have to go that way into town. They can come in the way by McDonald's if they had to, and they wouldn't have to turn that sharp turn. So I think it's just going to be a matter of getting people used to going the ways that are the easiest. I think that corner itself would be an excellent corner for a roundabout, but I don't think anybody's in the mood for that, and I'm not sure there's enough room there. We definitely don't have the money to make one. So I think most of it will be education. The signs will be coming off main roads that there is truck routes are enforced, people will look for that. You know, I think that most of the union drivers are told to go on, don't go on streets that are marked, no trucks allowed.
I just did a quick Google search and it said you can't do it in Google, but you can consult the MnDOT to get it on specific truck apps. So maybe
Okay,
we should
maybe we should look into that.
into that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take note of that.
Any other updates from Public Works, Dave?
That was all we really talked.
Right.
It was a short meeting.
Okay, next up is Planning Commission. Planning Commission was November 24th. Oops, I just minimized my window. We had some discussion about parking requirements and design requirements, as Mr. Littlejohn alluded to earlier. The concept behind this, or the goal behind this, is if you look back from the last 10 years that I spent on planning and prior to that, we've given out parking variances like they're candy. Because our current ordinances state that you have to have, correct me if I'm wrong, Tabitha, but you have to have 2 spaces per 2.5 per dwelling unit.
Do that,
So
man.
I don't know how you drive half a car, but that's 2.5 spaces per dwelling unit. We're bringing those down to match what MnDOT standards are, and that's kind of how we mirrored both the design requirements and the number of spaces. Other than that, there was a variance appeals ordinance and a conditional use permit ordinance that went through. This year we found some CUPs that had minor adjustments that needed to be made to them, like they couldn't put up a fence, they planted trees instead, but in the CUP it said a fence is required, but even though everybody had agreed on the trees. So what this is doing is this is implementing something where it still comes back to planning commission, they just don't have to start from ground zero and build from there. There was some discussion on the Orbis property and gearing up for next year with going through our zoning code with fine tooth comb. All of that. But that's all I have for Planning Commission. And next up would be EDA. EDA was a pretty short meeting. Discussions about the Small Cities Development Program update. And there was a survey that was done through the county, trying to figure out what our EDA loans and things like that, how they're working, how the community is perceiving them, what we can do better, how we can better align with our businesses and our small businesses and help make sure that the EDA is able to leverage the funds that it has to move that forward. But that's all I have for that. And I guess at this point in time, we'll move on to item 12, council concerns. Council conduct from Mr. Gill.
Yeah, that's just a short statement. I'm gonna read what I wrote because if I tried to say it from my mind, I probably wouldn't get it right, even if maybe this isn't right. But during the upcoming closed session that we are going to have, I expect that we as a council will be respectful of all parties concerned. I believe we need to focus on the individuals being discussed and hold all unproductive remarks. We need to complete this review process in a productive manner as directed. That's all I have to say about it.
Dave? All right, at this point in time, 5:49, we gives us about a half an hour.
I did look at the hours. The library is open.
Okay.
So people can just walk into the library and sit, read a magazine.
Okay. At this point in time, the council is going to go into closed session. We will act closed session at approximately 6 6:25, 6:20,
25, yeah.
6:25, give everybody a chance for bathroom break and get everybody back in here for truth and taxation. Again, that starts at 6:30. But at this point in time, we're going to proceed with a closed session. As Marcy said, the library is still open if you'd like to.
Is it open till 7?
So should we? Close. Pause this.
I think you got
Well,
to pause.
yeah, you
We have to pause the portion of this. So I'll make a motion to pause our regular meeting.
Oh, second, but don't you have to read something?
Yeah,
Yep,
after we
yep.
go into that.
Okay, so that is, I've got a motion from start off with item number 11 on our agenda.
No, I don't think so.
We did it at the beginning.
No.
I don't know why you would.
All right,
Part of the meeting.
we will start off with 11.1 on the agenda, the truth and taxation presentation.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. This is the 2026 Truth and Taxation Budget Property Tax Levy presentation.
Clicking, not working.
There we go. Thank you. The Truth and Taxation hearing is being held according to state statutes. The hearing will include a 2026 budget summary as well as an explanation of the financial impact on the proposed tax levy. Public will be given an opportunity to speak at the end of the presentation. Also, if we could keep all questions till the end, that would help the presentation. The proposed preliminary tax levy for 2026 was approved at $2,258,862 with a tax rate of 56.63%, which is a total increase of 7.49% from last year's levy. However, after working closely with department heads, we were able to bring that levy down to $2,183,961, which is a decrease of 3.57% from the approved 2026 preliminary levy. The general fund levy is increasing by $272,897. This increase is driven by higher costs for gas, electricity, insurance, professional services, wages, and other operational expenses. This also includes additional transfers needed to repay the water and sewer fund for the amounts borrowed to finance the 2021 and 22 street project and the city's share of the fire contracts. The EDA levy, which is incorporated within the general fund, will decrease by $19,154, while the Economic Development Authority, EDA, initially requested the maximum allowable levy, which is 0.01813% of the city's estimated market value. The City Council approved a 1% reduction from that amount when setting the preliminary levy. The capital fund levy will decrease by $143,256 as the city is utilizing $96,166 from the fund balance to help cover costs associated with an ECE loan, a ladder truck payment, a plow truck payment, parks building, and ball fields. The debt service fund levy will decrease by $15,390. This reduction is due to the payoff of one debt service loan, number 310, and the planned use of fund balance from another, Fund 319, for which the city levied in the capital fund this year and transferred the amount to cover both the current and upcoming year's payments. Additionally, the city is aiming to pay off another debt service loan by end of this year or early next year to reduce interest costs for further lower overall debt. The HRA fund levy will decrease by $12,688. Although the Housing Redevelopment Authority, HRA, requested the maximum allowable levy, 0.0185% of the city's estimated market value, the City Council approved a 1% reduction from that amount during the preliminary levy setting. Just a reminder, tonight we discussed the city's share of your total 2026 tax statement, not the property valuations. The meeting to appeal or discuss valuations will be held in the spring. Here's an example of your proposed property tax statement. The yellow section you'd see on your form is the city's share of that tax statement. So who levies property taxes? It includes the counties, city, township, school districts, state, and various special taxing jurisdictions. For example, the watershed district, the library district, hospital districts, HRA, EDA. Some key steps in this process is that the county assessor determines the estimated market value for each parcel. In the market value exclusion, if eligible, the exclusions affect each property independently. This determines the taxable market value. And then legislature sets the formula for tax capacity based on Minnesota's classification rates. The county assessor then calculates the tax capacity for each value on the property in the city. Taxable market value times classification of the property equals tax capacity. City council then adopts a preliminary levy in September. And then after a public hearing, the city council adopts a final levy in December. The final levy amount is sent to the county auditor for final calculations for each property tax. General fund expenses. The proposed general fund budget for 2026 is $3,209,422. The general fund pays for all city services as outlined below. The services provided are those most commonly associated with city government, and they include general government, which is city council, administration, finance, licensing, elections, planning, zoning, library, city hall building, city assessor. Another category is public safety, police protection, fire department, fire life safety, and legal services. Another is public works for our street maintenance, and then also culture and recreation, which is parks, playgrounds, swimming, beach, the skating rinks, softball fields, and social programs. On this slide, you'll see the proposed 2026 general fund expenses, which include general government administration, public safety, public works, and culture recreation we saw on the previous slide. And this chart shows you the percentages of each and where those expenses go on there. This next slide is the 2026 general fund expenditure comparison, which looks at the budgeted 2025 and the proposed 2026 and shows you the differences in those same categories we just discussed. On this slide, it's the proposed 2026 general fund revenues, and the same thing as taxes, licenses and permits, licenses and permits, intergovernmental, and charges for services. So this pie chart will show the percentages for each of those categories. This slide shows you the general fund revenues comparison. Again, including those same items with the budgeted 2025 and then the proposed 2026, along with the differences. Here is the capital improvement fund expenses. Proposed capital improvement fund budget for 2026 is $263,919. The capital improvement fund involves city projects in the departments as outlined below. So these include debt service, which is debt due on our ECE loan. There's public safety category, which is the ladder truck payment. Under public works, we have a plow truck payment. And for parks and building, there's parks, building, and ball fields. This slide is the proposed 2026 capital improvement expenses, which then takes those same items and puts them into a pie chart. So it's the debt service, public safety, public works, parks, and buildings. So that just shows the percentages for each of those items. On the next slide, 2026 capital improvement fund expenditures comparison. So again, this takes those same items, shows you the budgeted 2025 items, the proposed 2026 items, and then the differences. This then takes a pie chart for the proposed 2026 capital improvement revenues, which includes property taxes, fire contracts, interest earnings, and interfund transfers. And this pie chart shows the interest on those. This slide is for the 2026 capital improvement revenues comparison. So again, it takes those same revenues, lists them out, showing the budgeted 2025 items, the proposed 2026 with the differences. The local factors impacting any tax increase or decrease include change in an individual's assessed market value and or the market value of other properties in your taxing district may change. Real estate market value, inflation or deflation. Also, possible changes in your property classification could impact this. Property improvements not previously taxed in the previous year. Also, the city, county, and other school district budgets and levies could impact your levy. Special assessments may be included in your property tax bill as well. So the proposed tax statement that everyone just received recently was sent out using the preliminary levy numbers approved in September. The impact on taxpayers. If the proposed 2026 budget is adopted, the city will request Pine County to collect $2,183,961 from city taxpayers to help pay for city services. This would be a 3.92 increase from 2025. And the picture below shows the comparisons from 2025 budget to 2026, the increase, decrease, and the percentage of change. The amount of property taxes paid on an individual property may vary greatly and is dependent upon each element of the property. The tax classification, what type of property assigned, what the property is assigned by the county assessor, which is it a residential homestead, a non-homestead, is it industrial, apartment, or commercial? Those all have an impact. Okay, on this slide, this is the 2026 City of Pine City tax impact, which these are actually real properties in Pine City. So to look at the first one, just so tiny. By the way, you can go online and pull this up yourself if you need to see it. It's on our website attached to the agenda. So the first one is a residential non-homestead. So last year's market value was $265,300. The 2026 taxable market value is $269,900. If you go under the middle yellow section, that's going to show you the estimate city share increase. So this particular parcel will have a $36 increase for the year of 2026. If you go down to the next one, which is a residential homestead, that taxable market value for 2025 was $167,199. The 2026 taxable market value was $160,659. So if you go over to the final tax levy, the estimated share would decrease. Their property will decrease $31 for the year. Also, another example is a residential homestead property with a value last year of $774,800. Oh, it's so little. $774,800 with the 2026 taxable market value at $730,600. If you look under their estimated city share, that property will see a $266 decrease for the 2026, as well as for commercial, industrial, apartments. There's other examples there. Some final points to remember. The assessor's valuation process is separate from the property tax determination process. The assessor estimates market value prior to the local government budget process. The assessor uses property values as of January 2nd of each year. That is the assessed values of January 2nd of last year, 2025, and is the value used to raise taxes for 2026. However, any changes in the value of your property and any change in the value of other properties in your community do affect your property taxes. What we're asking of council tonight is that you approve resolution 2025-50, adopting the 2026 property tax levy in the amount of $2,183,961, as well as approve the 2026 budget for the city of Pine City. Then on the last page, this is a breakdown of the 2026 proposed levy, which include the general government fund, EDA fund, debt service, bonds, capital improvement fund, HRA. The total property tax levy comes to $2,183,961. Thank you.
Right, at this point in time, the truth in taxation is a public hearing.
Correct.
If you'd like to make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and council will hear your concerns. We'll ask again, this is a public hearing for truth in taxation. If you would like to make comment, please make your way to the podium, state your name and address, and council will comment. We'll ask again if anybody would like to come to the podium. For a final time, I will ask if anybody would like to make their way to the podium and take concerns to our truth taxation. None, I will close the public hearing at this time, and council will take it under advisement.
Thank you.
All right, I guess at this point in time, we would be looking for a motion to pass resolution 2025-50.
I do have a question, but
Sure.
so the HRA's budget was based off of a contingent in the vote. Do we ever find out if that vote stands? Or was it
Yeah,
not?
I reached out to legal on that about the payback because it's technically not even the city's funds, but I'm waiting for a final answer from them to see how we even correct that.
So to that point, if that vote doesn't stand, then the approval for HRA's levy and budget doesn't stand.
No, that amount approved for this year for 2026.
Based off of that motion, that if they don't separate, then those funds come back to the city.
Yeah, but it's technically not the city's funds.
But that was the motion on the table. We can't correct that motion. So either it stands and the budget for the HRA stands, or it doesn't stand. Whatever action we took on the HRA means that it's zero for 2026. We don't get to amend the vote now when it's convenient because of a mistake on our part.
I don't see this as amending the vote, Kyle. What I see this is we made a motion to approve the agenda. There was an earmark tagged onto that agenda that we are reviewing its legality at this point in time and reviewing how to move forward with that. And we don't have those answers, but we did pass unanimously an agenda for the HRA.
Based off of certain specifics. But if those specifics don't hold up, or we can't do that, then that means that the motion for whatever action we took is zero, null and void. Which means that we shouldn't be voting on this with the HRA's budget in here.
Mr. Mayor and Mr. I have a question. I understand what you're saying, Kyle, but is it true that it was reported that we can't really tax it, right? Put a contingency on a tax requirement, like it wasn't done correctly? Is that what it was?
That's what I don't have.
Yeah, because it was just not a procedure that we can do. It's not something that's
The
allowed.
council approved that budget line because they are their own budget line. Excellent.
And I do believe, Kyle, that you can continue to ask the city and the HRA to separate. That's well within that you can still make that happen. I just don't know if it can be tied to tax fund.
We approved the increase, but the budget was tied to separation, or that would come back to the city of Pine City, or they would have to separate. If that vote doesn't count, then the budget of 42,312, we would never, we didn't approve it when we had to approve it, so there is no budget for 2026. We're trying to take action on something that doesn't exist, so you're asking us to approve a resolution that might be in conflict with the previous vote.
I see that you have a point, but I just
But
don't.
that doesn't impact the dollar amount that's being levied.
There's still a conflict here because the vote was made, either the vote stands and all that stuff comes back, or they separate at the end of 2026, or it doesn't stand and they don't have a budget for 2026.
I believe the budget was approved, that passed unanimously. That's what's in the minutes. That's what we're making it off of. I don't disagree that was something needs to be done with the HRA and that we need to take care of that.
There was two motions. One was for the percentage and one was for the budget.
One, were they two?
We passed two budgets. We went with the lesser of the two. Yes, after discussion, we went with the 1% reduction. We passed the higher, and then when we did the final budget, we lowered it. So I think that's the one that stands. We're not asking for that extra one.
And I guess, here's what I'll say. This is my understanding of it. We have to fix the HRA building before we can fix it. If you cut their budget away, we already know we can't afford to fix the budget as it is, so let's take more money away from you. Say, you still need to fix the building before we get rid of it. That's what's happened. That's what I'm seeing happening.
I'm not disagreeing with that part, but we had to take an action on two components at that meeting. So either the vote stands and they have to either separate or give money back at the end of 2026, or they don't have a budget. And you're trying to make an argument that regardless of now, we have to push forward and gray over that whole vote. So either the vote stands or it doesn't. And either way, we have to follow what's legal. If that was a legal vote, then that's what we would have to follow. If it's not a legal vote and it was part of the vote that was needed for the HRA for their budget, then approving this budget amount is wrong.
I'll go ahead, unless there's any other discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion to. 2025-50.
Got a motion from Gina. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second from Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution, so we'll proceed with a roll call vote. Gina?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Kyle?
No.
I will also vote yes, that motion. That concludes our 2026 truth and taxation. You all, everybody in here. At this point in time, the city council is going to go back into closed session. We have to everybody can leave the room and we will go back.